Welcome to Made for Mondays, the source for digging a little deeper into the Believers Church Sunday messages and finding ways to apply them to our daily lives. Together, let's take a deeper look and find a way to bring Mondays back to life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the pod. My name is Heather, and who are you fellas?
Hey there, Heather. It is me, Jamie.
And Sam.
Guys, I'm a little nervous to start off this morning because you've both already informed me that you did nothing this weekend.
I did go to lunch with Bonnie on Saturday.
Oh, where did you go?
Nowhere really exciting.
Dunkin' Donuts.
The Baker's Crust?
Baker's Crust?
Yeah.
In Norfolk?
No, down in Greenbrier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was fine.
But where did you get donuts for? You got donuts for the staff last week, too. What was that
I
from?
did. I got that from Classic Donut Food Truck.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're amazing, aren't they?
But you have to follow them online, right? Because
they're
they show
they're
up
not
different
up here
places.
very often. They're down in the beach most of the time.
Okay.
So they occasionally come to Jolliffe Middle.
Oh, gotcha.
And they just happened to post that they were over at the intermediate school, and someone told me about it.
Western Branch?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I just walked across the street.
Oh, I didn't know that. Man,
Yeah.
they are.
They're the best.
I don't.
They're
I don't
really
like to
good.
throw it out there, but they might be the best donut.
Yeah.
The cinnamon sugar one is.
they're also they're humongous.
They're ginormous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have one because I'm trying to behave myself.
I was
but-
like third person in line. There's the downside, and it still took me 40 minutes to get them. And the line was very
because
deep.
they make them
Really?
fresh.
They make them
as
fresh
you order them.
as you're ordering.
So if you order a dozen,
it cleans them out.
you're gonna be
and
there
then you have to wait a little while.
Yeah, you said you were sermon prepping that day. So when I got in here, there weren't donuts, and I was like, he lied to us. We were supposed to have donuts this morning, but that makes sense now.
It took me a
took a
minute.
while, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, they were really
I'll have to
great.
follow
yeah.
them.
Yeah, you should follow them.
I met a
It's
friend.
Classic Donut with a K. In case someone's looking for
Oh,
them.
I hate
Never mind.
that.
I know, but
If
if
any-
someone's looking for them, I needed to let them know.
I know.
If anybody could tell, we've tried to figure this out, what it's called when that happens. There's
I know.
a word
I always
for it.
forget what it's called.
If someone could send that in, because it's the same thing as kids
Kitchen cuts.
kids cuts or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and they change I'm like, I'm not going to that.
Yeah.
But you would go to the donut truck.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If your product's good enough, I don't care how you spell your name.
Yeah. See?
I'll be there.
I went with a friend on Saturday night to Cork and Bowl, which
Yeah, that's down Greenbrier Way, right?
it's the newest of the Riverstone vintage
yeah.
decoys.
yeah,
Gotcha.
And
It was great.
good.
What kind of food do they have?
It's a lot like Riverstone.
Okay.
They even have I got their steak bites and their Caesar salad, and it was very much like what they serve over here.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a beautiful location.
Where
and
is it exactly?
It's in that new, I think it's called Summit Point
Okay.
on Volvo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there's the Dollar Tree
Yep.
headquarters, and then this whole new
There's a
live-in
lot
play
going on over
space.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Every time we drive by the Dollar Tree over there, Emma, our youngest, is like, that is the biggest Dollar Tree I've ever seen.
she's like, I could get so many things
Yeah.
for
I'm like,
$1.
no, Emma, it's the corporate office. And she's like, I don't know what that means, but that store is huge. I'm like, yeah, it is.
That's so great. Yeah, but it was good. It was our waitress was awesome, and
Nice.
yeah, it was a.
Was it a
good
lunchtime
time.
thing?
No,
Or
we went at dinner
Dinner.
time. We were actually going to go to, I don't know if it's Luce or Luce, or it's a Italian
spell
restaurant.
it? I'll say it.
Luce.
Oh, yeah.
Wait.
Luce. That's what it is.
Oh boy.
Gosh, I'm glad you cleared that up for me.
Yep.
Thanks.
Just for the future.
But there's one, the original one is in Norfolk, and then they
Oh yeah.
put one here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we were going to go, but they didn't have any room for us. So
That's
then-
Italian? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Luce. Right, Jamie?
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had traveled so much this week that it was just Saturday was really good just to chill.
Yeah.
Friday
Yeah.
night got back home late and I was not feeling well.
Oh, you
really?
weren't?
I didn't think I thought I was fine. But then by the time I sat down, I was like, my stomach hurt and I was like, what is going on? So I just went to sleep, which is probably the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And I just think I was exhausted.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I woke up feeling much better, but Saturday was definitely a rest day. It was a
Yeah,
Sabbath.
we had a friend going through a pretty significant crisis on Saturday, and so we were trying not to do much in case we
Needed to be-
They were at the hospital, and we were going to go by and pray with them. Ended up not having that chance, but yeah, it was just kind of a heavy day
Yeah.
for us.
And it was not a great weather weekend.
Yeah, it really
It was just
wasn't.
kind
It was
of
kind of
a-
gloomy, I thought.
Yeah, but this morning was nice. Like it's cool, not like the cool mornings now. I
I
love
rode the
that.
motorcycle today, first
You
time
did?
in several weeks because my hand is well enough
Oh, yeah.
to put a
Give
glove
us an
on.
update.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
How's
it's almost all better.
Oh, yeah, it is almost better.
Yeah, so it's the first day that I was able to put on a glove without it hurting.
and
That's
you
why
ha-
I haven't ridden for
Ja-
last couple of weeks.
Jamie, we pulled up the same stoplight today, and I gave him the motorcycle
did.
peace sign.
Yeah.
from the Suburban.
Yeah, and I appreciate you giving it back to me. Made me
Sure.
feel included.
Yeah.
So you have to wear gloves to ride your motorcycle?
Well, you don't have to, but
It's
it's
safe.
safer. Yeah. Because if you fall off a
You should
motorcycle,
wear those when you're like working in the kitchen with
with
Bonnie.
I should.
How it would have been.
That's a good
That-
call.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely should.
Very helpful tip.
Maybe
there.
not leather ones. Maybe just
Yeah,
the-
just
those, the rubber gloves that go
Yeah.
up to here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
You know, you can get those.
Put them on as soon
the
as I get
big-
home.
They have the rubber glove ones that you can get that are like kind of designed.
Yeah,
Like
that
you
would
could
be
get
nice.
ruffles on them or like
Bedazzled, yeah.
tassels
Oh, nice.
as
yeah.
though you were on your bike.
I was thinking the ones that you were talking about the glass making the last time when they
Oh,
put
yeah,
it
yeah.
before they put it in the fire and then just spin them all around. That'd
Yeah,
be great.
could
Yeah.
do that. But yeah, the motorcycle. If you happen to fall off a motorcycle and you don't have gloves on, you will have no skin on your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
So I wear gloves.
Yeah.
Smart.
Nate should have taken that advice
Yeah,
several
Nate-
years ago.
yeah.
He dumped a bike and has the road rash too.
Yeah, wearing shorts and flip flops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good.
In
smart.
a
It's not a good
Minnesota
move.
no helmet state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not good.
Tell me about your gloves. Do they have tassels?
They do not. As a matter of fact,
What
no.
are they? What
well,
are they?
Christmas
they
is right
just
around
go
the corner.
to here. They're just gloves, just leather gloves.
All
And
right.
You
I
have heated ones too.
I do have heated ones. They go up over the jacket a little bit
Okay.
to keep the wind from going in your sleeve.
Do they have like the cutout on the top?
No, these ones don't. But I have worn
Yeah.
those for years, as you know, because I would have
Yeah, yeah.
my motorcycle tan, which is like a circle
What is,
on the top of my
what's
head.
the idea behind that? What's
Just
the
it's
I
the
don't know.
ventilation, I'm sure.
I'm sure that's
Not to
probably
get sweaty.
gotta keep the top of your hands nice and cool?
Yeah. Just cool them off.
yeah. The ones I have now don't have the hole there, so
Yeah. Just the biker world.
Just regular old
yeah,
gloves.
just regular gloves.
So interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong
Yeah,
at the
they're
start
useful.
of this podcast.
Yeah?
This was a great intro.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lots of good information for everybody.
It's
Very
better when
useful.
it's not
Starting their
planned,
Monday off right, you know?
Yeah.
for sure.
absolutely.
All right. Well, you guys,
Yeah,
Yep.
Sunday was big day.
it was big day.
And we began our new series called Joyride.
We did.
So I just want to talk a little bit about the series and like kind of what we're hoping to get from the series, what we're hoping people walk away from this series experiencing.
Yeah.
You have some goals.
Yeah.
All right. What are they?
I think probably the biggest goal would be to help people. What I laid out yesterday is kind of going to be the tone for this series, and the theme being joy and learning how to go through life with a sense of purpose and significance that brings joy to you, so you can have joy even when life is incredibly hard, and life is incredibly hard. I was talking about our friends who were going through something pretty rough this weekend, and I mean, just a heart-wrenching kind of thing that they have gone through, and they can be deeply saddened and grieve, their loss as they go through this time, but they can do so with what the Bible calls hope, and have internally even a sense of joy, which is not like a sense of just happiness.
Right.
It's much broader than that. So yeah, that's kind of my hope. Is everyone goes through very difficult things in life, and yet Paul actually commands that we be joyful. So I hope that's encouraging to people that they can figure out that they can go through hard stuff and still have joy.
Yeah, your joy meter is not based on your circumstances necessarily.
Not
I mean,
necessarily.
it can
It can
help.
be,
It
sure.
can definitely
Yeah,
help with
there-
some joy, but
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's such a. I mean, we came off of polarizing.
Yeah.
And then back to school. That's been our last couple of series.
What was
and,
polarizing?
Yeah. But like even with polarizing, what I was gonna
Let's not
say
talk
is
about
like
let's dive back into that real
Yeah.
quick.
it felt like we wanted to do that series because it felt so relevant. Like it felt so culturally relevant. Like it was something we had to lean into.
100%.
But then even looking at this, like it feels so relevant. You know, this letter that Paul wrote to the church in Philippi, like it feels like it's such a modern day letter.
Yeah, for sure.
And
agree.
so I just love that that God's word is like that,
Yeah.
where we can glean so much wisdom from it, even today. So based on the dictionary's definition of joy, Jamie, you gave several examples of things that bring us joy.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you guys would say brings you joy over the years?
I mean, for me, probably for most of us, like all the usual suspects, right? So kids, more recently having a grandkid. Well, at first when they first come.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, when they first come,
Oh, yeah.
it gets much worse after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the arrival of a grandchild, a win at work, getting married, all the things that you would typically hope that would give you some joy.
A Browns win.
Yeah,
Oh man,
very
that,
rare.
that would be something, wouldn't it?
It would be amazing. I'm sure that would bring me joy
Yeah.
if that ever happened. Well, I was laughing because obviously I love sports, but I was thinking when the Cavaliers won the championship in 2016.
Yeah,
And we
went
drove
to the
all the way
parade.
back. Yeah, like that was super joyful. There was a lot of people that were filled with joy.
Yeah.
And good on them. They didn't even destroy their city.
I don't think we did. That was
Yeah.
I mean, it's already kind of
Yeah,
It is
a mess.
Cleveland.
There's not much you can do to it.
that's true.
But yeah, we didn't further destroy
Yeah,
it.
well, I mean, look at Philly.
That's true.
Right. There's not much there either,
Oh,
and they
man.
burned their place down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some of those things? Because you talked about this in your message too. That we have an expectation that we are gonna. You're gonna be able to answer this really well, Sam.
Oh, good.
You have an expectation that this thing could bring you joy, and then the thing happens, and then your joy disappears.
Yeah,
Yep.
or it just doesn't even
Yeah.
arrive.
Listen, I've had this principle in my life for a long time.
All right.
Low expectations. You set low expectations, it's way easier to be joyful. When it's just like a little bit of good happens, you're like, oh, that was great. But if it goes bad, you're like, I knew that was going to happen. You can't lose.
That you have to have that mindset.
That's a
it.
good pro
Yeah.
tip on
Yep.
joy. Right
You're
there.
welcome, everybody.
Yeah. All right, I guess we're done.
Maybe I need to label it something different than low expectations because I think it really could fit in
Yeah,
and work.
you need
but
to rebrand that.
yeah,
a
I'll
little
work on
bit.
that. Jeremy,
Okay.
I need some creativity around that.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Breakpoint, that Netflix
Yeah.
series, as kind of your illustration for that, and just how someone went after this thing. So, like, her life was dedicated.
Yeah.
And then,
And it did not deliver.
Right.
And she's not the only one. I've told the story before of Andre Agassi, another tennis player who made it to #1 in the world and said famously, "This is it."
Yeah.
yeah.
That's literally what he said when he got ranked #1. Like, it so disappointed him.
So I've thought about this and I've wanted to share it, and I finally have a chance to.
Okay.
I have a theory on this. I think that happens a lot more in tennis as well because it's an individual sport.
So
You know what I'm
individual,
saying?
yeah.
And so when they reach this level of winning, it's just them. I mean, they might have a coach that you can celebrate
Yeah,
with.
they got their
Yeah,
small
so
team
I
of
think it
people or
is
whatever.
it is that way. But like I think this could be preached on. When you have a team around you and you experience joy, you experience like a good thing. Like
You do it together.
You're doing it together, so
Right.
it's not even like it's getting to see joy with everybody kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Do you
Yeah.
think that's the same for golfers?
Yeah, I mean that's why coming off of the
Yeah.
Ryder Cup, which was
terrible.
awful. But it's true. It's like you see them; they celebrate when they win a major or something, and it's exciting with their caddy.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it's like to a whole nother level.
That's such an interesting take
when
on
it's
that.
like a team thing. And I think that's the same with the church, is like when you experience things. You were going to say what gives you joy with the kids. Mine, maybe this is just getting a little bit older in ministry, but when you see someone else experience something that you did maybe a while ago, like when Jesus moved you in a way, and then he does that for the next person, that brings joy. It's like, oh man,
Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I don't know if that was the question, but
No,
there we
that's
are.
perfect. Yeah, I love it. So, Jamie, you mentioned Acts 16 at the beginning of your message because that's the chapter that chronicles the start of the Jesus movement.
Yeah.
And since the purpose of this podcast is to dig a little bit deeper into Sunday's messages, I'm wondering if you'll just take a minute to give us some insight into Acts 16. We'll get into those final verses in our next question, but just kind of an overview of what's going on there.
So there's a lot going on in Acts 16, and I had to pick and choose how much of it I would go into because there really is. There's so much going on in Acts 16. So at the beginning of Acts 16, Paul and Silas are trying to go further east into Asia Minor, and what Luke tells us is, and I'm quoting, I don't remember the verse, but in the beginning of chapter 16, the Holy Spirit prevented them from preaching the word in the province of Asia at that time. And I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know how the Holy Spirit prevented them, but it happened on more than one occasion. They were trying to go somewhere and they felt like the door just closed. And so one night he has a vision, and it's a vision of a man in northern Greece. Commonly, we call it the Macedonian call. And in this vision that Paul has, this guy is saying, come and help us. And so Paul takes that vision as God speaking to him. And so they sail the next morning to Greece and end up in Philippians. And this is super significant for us because this is the first time that the gospel moves into Europe. And so it's a decided movement of the church spreading westward. And so we're beneficiaries of the Macedonian call, really, in a lot of ways. And they get to Philippi, and what Paul's normal practice is they go to the synagogue and they talk to the Jews first, and then after the Jews throw them out, they go and talk to the Gentiles. Well, in Philippi, it's part of the Roman Empire, and there's so few Jews in this. You have to have a certain number of Jewish people in a community to start a synagogue, and apparently there's not enough of them to do that. So the Jewish people are down by the river, praying, and Paul goes to them and shares the gospel with them. And so this is very distinctive from where Paul usually goes, because usually there's a lot of Jewish people that come to faith, and then he goes, uses that as a platform to go to the Gentiles. Well, here there's just a handful of Jewish folks, but Lydia comes to faith, and Paul and Silas end up staying with her at her house. That house becomes the Church of Philippi. And
Wait,
so,
a woman
yeah.
started a church?
Well, Paul started the church.
Paul, yeah.
But there's a lot of speculation that Lydia led that church after Paul left.
Jeremy's really annoyed. He's like shaking his head.
So there
boy.
is a lot of speculation that she is the leader of the house, and it is interesting to note that she is the leader of her household.
Right, yeah.
It says so in Acts 16. So I don't know if she's a widow. We don't really know exactly what her situation was. But she comes to faith. Paul and Silas end up staying with her. And then another interesting sidebar in Philippi is Paul and Silas are going around preaching the gospel, and Luke tells us that there is an enslaved girl who's following them around, and she's possessed by a demon, and the demon allows her to tell the future. And so those who own her, who we would say who traffic her, are getting rich off of this girl predicting the future for people. And when Paul and Silas get to town, she starts following them around, and she says that These men are servants of the Most High God, and they have come to tell you how to be saved. And Luke tells us that she just did this nonstop day after day after day until Paul, the word that's used is exasperated. And he all right already. Enough already. He had a Popeye moment. He turns around, he casts the demon out of her, and
Go on, get.
yeah, and she loses her ability to tell the future. And so those who traffic her are royally
Livid.
Yeah, they're very, very angry.
They've lost their moneymaker.
They've lost their moneymaker. And so they get everyone kind of stirred up. And that's how Paul ends up in prison in Philippi. It was from that incident. They end up dragging Paul and Silas before the city and say, these people are causing a major disruption in our city, and they're teaching customs that are illegal for us Romans to practice. That was the charge against Paul and Silas. And that practice would have been worshiping another king other than Caesar. They end up in prison, and then the rest is what I
Yeah.
told yesterday.
Yeah.
Did you say that they were in Asia Minor? When was that?
Yeah, they were trying to go to Asia Minor.
Which is just a step down from Asia Major.
Yes, I knew you were going there.
Just a little music joke for you.
It was
Musicians are going to love that one.
hilarious. Yeah.
Jeremy's sound effect. Ba-dum.
So, first of all,
Yes.
the fact that all of that is in one
All
chapter.
of that is in one chapter. It's a lot.
Acts, it like feels like that's a whole that right there
Yeah.
could be a mini series.
But the missionary
Yeah.
journeys are so awesome.
Oh my gosh, they're so
They're
great.
just like,
And
they're
that
all over the
was,
place.
yeah, that was Paul's second missionary journey. Starts in Acts.
Do you
16.
remember what the series was called when we actually went through Acts?
I do not. That was a long
It
time
was
ago.
a long time ago.
And I don't recall what it was.
But we did. And if you're interested
Yeah,
in it,
somewhere-
you can probably
Well, we did a whole
Deep in
B
the
group study on it,
archives.
right?
Yeah, we did. Was it
That had to that had to have been a decade ago.
well, I'll have to see if I can
Yeah.
figure it out. We'll mention it
Yeah.
next week cuz it's a great series.
It sure is.
So then at the end of chapter 16, we learn
I feel like it would be so much better today.
oh, it would be so much better today.
We might need to do it again at some point.
I think there's been enough time. I think we probably
Yeah,
could run it
we
back.
didn't even remember, but
I guess
Yeah.
if we don't know, pretty
yeah,
sure.
I feel like we could
Yeah.
do so much better this time around.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Anyway, sorry.
So at the end of chapter 16, we learn how the church in Philippi began, far from what most of us would consider joyful circumstances.
Yeah.
Can you give us now a little bit of background refresher on the book of Philippians
Right.
and who it's written to and why?
Right. So Paul started this church, as we just talked about. That's how the church
Yep.
got started. He stayed there for a little while. He moved on to another place. This letter, most scholars think, was written about 10 years later. So a fair amount of time has passed. This church has grown. I'm reading some, I don't know exactly what, but as I've been preparing for these messages, there's some kind of turmoil going on in Philippi. I'm not 100% sure what that is. But the purpose of the letter really, though, is the church at Philippi heard about Paul being in prison, and they took up an offering and sent the offering with Epaphroditus to go to Philippi, which was a pretty long distance from where he was. Some people think he was in Rome. Other people think he was in Ephesus at this time. So I don't really know where he was. But it was a pretty treacherous journey, and Epaphroditus shows up with the offering and ministers to Paul on behalf of the Church of Philippi. And so this letter is just Paul writing back. He sends the letter back with Epaphroditus. And so Epaphroditus had to be with him for a little while because
Yeah.
it was no quick thing to jot down a letter
Right.
like this.
Yeah.
And so, he sends the letter back with Epaphroditus to say, basically, just thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a journey
Thank
for
you
poor
for giving to
Epaphroditus.
the
Yeah,
Lord.
poor Epaphroditus.
Oh my gosh.
We'll get to him in a couple weeks, but
Yeah.
he almost dies in the process.
Yeah. All to take care of his friend and bring a letter back.
Yeah. Phew. Times were
I think
tough.
we should bring that name back, Epaphroditus.
I mean,
Oh my
old school
goodness.
names,
Yeah,
they do occasionally
I
make
know.
comebacks. This would be a good one.
That would be a great one.
Yeah. Maybe if I have a grandson in 5 years.
What?
Not, I don't want one.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
I don't want one like tomorrow.
I gotcha.
Just got Esther. Let's
Yeah.
wait a little while.
Okay.
Yeah.
But maybe the next one, if it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
boy, you know,
Just consider it.
consider Epaphroditus.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
This is a really important question.
Okay.
While we were technically just getting into fall right now,
Yeah.
you brought up a passage that's often used at Christmas time.
It is almost exclusively used at
So
Christmas time.
everyone is just really curious. Is that because of your exuberant love for all things Christmas?
Not exactly.
Okay.
My exuberance for Christmas is the reason that we are doing a series this Christmas called Bah Humbug. And we're not decorating. Is that
Yeah.
still true? Is that our
Yeah,
plan?
we're not decorating.
We've thrown around the idea.
We're not going to decorate in keeping with our theme.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen,
Because-
I'm trying to. We've talked about this a lot this week, Christmas.
Yeah.
And we usually have pretty bad attitudes. And I'm gonna say from this point right now, I'm
You
trying
said
to turn
this
it
last
around.
year on the podcast.
I'm gonna turn it around.
I know, but can we turn it around with a series titled Bah
No.
Humbug? I don't think
It's
we can.
literally the year that we can lean into it.
right.
It's just gloomy, guys.
I mean,
It's Christmas. Come
Well,
on.
I know.
here's the
Tell us your favorite Christmas song to lead on Sundays.
Oh, man. Well, Christmas shoes, of course. Just right off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've never seen you lead that one though. You
It's
talk
tough.
about
It's
it
tough
every.
to- it's
you
tough to
talk
fit into
about
a
it every
service.
year.
Very tough to fit into a service.
Yeah,
But
maybe it could be a special.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a female led, so we'll just have Megan sing it. It would be great.
Oh, she loves it when we throw songs at her.
That'd be great.
I'm just kidding.
Thanks, Meg.
I can't stand Christmas. Let's get it over with. I tried to love it. I can't.
You lasted, what was that, maybe 18 seconds.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, very good. But I did use Luke 2:10,
Yeah.
which is almost only ever used at Christmas.
But it's such a good verse.
It's such a great verse, and I don't know why. I mean, we do because it's about the birth of Jesus.
Right.
So that's why it only gets used then. But it is such a great verse. Don't be afraid, the angel said. I bring you good news that will bring great joy to all people.
It's maybe one of the only verses that we actually only use in context.
So true. That is a true
Any
statement.
other verse, we're like, oh, let's pull this out of
Yeah.
here and just
Yep.
insert it
Yeah,
here.
yeah. The arrival of King Jesus was a cause for joy for all people.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So talk us through the Bible Project quote that teases out the John 16:33 passage.
Yeah, John 16:33 is that passage where Jesus says, "Yeah, life is going to be super hard, but I've overcome everything." And I pulled this quote from. It's actually from a video on. I think it was Keywords. It was the word was joy. So if you want to look it up, you can just Google Bible Project joy, and this video will come up. And I just pulled from the transcript from that video. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So he says, having joy doesn't mean you ignore or suppress your sorrow. That's not healthy or necessary. And so, like where Jesus says, yeah, things are going to be tough. He's not saying being joyful is brushing all that off, right?
Right.
So you acknowledge the difficult things that you're going through, because if you don't, it really is terribly unhealthy. Paul often expressed his grief about missing loved ones or losing friends or his own freedom. He called it, and this line is from, I want to say it's it might be 1 Corinthians 15. It might be, does 2 Corinthians go as far as chapter 15? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think just.
I feel like it's like towards the end of 2 Corinthians, but
I know this is gonna be Bible quizzing.
I may be wrong. But what Paul says is being full of sorrow and yet rejoicing. And it was on a list of, he's going through all of the things that he has endured. It's one of those lists of Paul's where, I've been stoned and whipped and thrown in
it's a
prison.
little
and
brag. It's a little braggy.
He is actually bragging
Yes.
to the church at Corinth
Yeah.
to prove his status as an apostle at the time. And after he lists all of these terrible things that happened to him, he says, I'm full of sorrow and yet rejoicing. And so back to the Bible Project, he acknowledged his pain. He also made a choice to trust Jesus, that his loss wouldn't be the final word. This is very different from the try to advise to turn that frown upside down. Christian joy is a profound decision of faith and hope in the power of Jesus' own life and love. And that is what biblical joy is all about.
Yeah. So 1 Corinthians goes to chapter 16.
Okay?
2 Corinthians goes to chapter 13.
Yeah.
So it was first.
It might be first, or maybe it's chapter 13 of 2
Yeah.
Corinthians. It's possible. I can't remember exactly.
When you got to that part of turning your frown upside
Yeah.
down, the people around me in second service, everyone was like, oh, like just, yeah, like that is
Giving them
such a
permission
trite
to
answer, you know,
say that's
to
ridiculous.
something.
Yeah.
So how have you guys experienced the truth of that in your own life? Like how have you experienced holding both, really?
Yeah. I mean, I've lost count of how many people I've talked to who've gone through something incredibly hard who have said, I don't know how people go through this without Jesus. And I think that's part of it, right? You endure something that's incredibly hard, and yet you haven't given up. You still have some hope. You still have faith. You know that ultimately, even though this is really hard, God will redeem it in some kind of way. I think that's what it is. And I mean, I've had tons of those
Yeah.
things in my life.
Yeah, it's unexplainable. I mean, we've talked about it for a while. I don't understand it. And it's not like we're sitting here being like, I hope something bad happens so that I can experience,
sure.
you know, this Jesus joy kind of thing. But yeah, when you hit those moments, it's unexplainable of why you're even like in your mental state, like able to think almost like the Holy, like where the Holy Spirit's leading you. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but
Yeah.
extremely grateful for it.
And I think those experiences show us the depth of joy,
Yeah.
like the depth of what joy is, because it isn't like this necessarily like this giddiness, this
Right.
like just what we think of as joyful.
Right.
It's not the like for people who love Christmas, the lights and the gifts and just all of the happy things that come with that. It's more of like that confident peace or confident hope.
Yeah, I think we
I
have a
think.
definition problem. Like
Yeah,
we have a
I think you're right.
definition
Yeah.
issue with joy. Because it's so much more than just like surface.
It's not just happy.
Yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
think a lot of people would call them synonyms, but I don't think they really are, at least biblically speaking.
Well, and I'm thinking of a bunch of songs with joy in it, right?
Yeah, Mhm. Joy to the World. Yeah.
What I was even thinking, like the old first when Christian music started taking off was Trading My Sorrows, and it's all these things. It's like I'm trading my shame, I'm trading my pain. Whatever else rhymes with that is what we sang about. But you're trading it for the joy of the Lord.
yeah.
And it's not the joy of me. It's not the joy in me. It's the joy of the Lord. Like
Yeah,
where the Lord shows up, that's where the joy is.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, that's where those meanings come from.
So good. So the big idea for this week is if my desire is Jesus, my joy will never break down. So how does that relate
There you
to
go.
Believers' mission statement?
Yeah. And at the, I wrestled with that a little bit because it sounds so churchy,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a little Jesus juke.
I mean,
It's
it
a
is,
little
for
Jesus
sure.
jukey,
Just trust Jesus and
Yeah.
there's your joy.
but it's also true. Like this,
is.
this one's fundamentally true. And it ties to the mission statement, making Jesus number one person at a time. If that's your desire, because desire drives joy, that was kind of part of the big idea that I was hitting on yesterday. Desire drives joy, and that's just universally true, I think. If you get the things you desire, you have joy. And so Paul is fixing his desire on something different than what most of us do. And so making Jesus number one, if your desire is to make Jesus number one in your life, then anything that happens in your life that grows your faith, draws you closer to Christ, or you have a sense that God is using you to draw someone else, it will be a reason for joy. And I think they align pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the questions have been good as they build in this podcast. Great job, Heather.
Oh, thanks.
But it is what it is. I mean, it's the definition problem, but you change it to joy and what joy is really defined as, and it stacks up. And so that when it does get to the Jesus moment, it's like, yeah, I have joy in Jesus.
Yeah.
I have joy in Jesus instead of maybe the circumstance that's hitting me
Yeah.
in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this opening message was such a great tie-in, I think, to the Back to School series.
Yeah.
How does being enthusiastic about disciple making bring us joy?
Yeah, so I think Paul models for us just kind of how to live that out. So if my desire is pursuing Jesus or becoming more like him, then I will do what Jesus says to do, which was the whole Back to School series. And Jesus says the most important thing is to love God, love others. So Paul is in prison and he's not absorbed with his own circumstances. He's obsessed for thinking and praying for other people. So he is, in fact, loving the way Jesus commanded him to love. And this is what brings him joy. And so just this morning, I got a message from one of our members who said, this very cool thing happened at work. I had posted he posted a short video clip of himself singing. Now you know who it is. And it's just like a 30-second clip. And he posted it. And a coworker of his unknowingly saw that, saw where it was from, went to our website, rummaged around for a while, found the message on transgenderism, and told this person how much that message impacted them.
Oh, wow.
And the cool thing was, like he said, how amazing that I put myself in a situation to do something that I'm not comfortable doing,
Right.
and God used it to impact the life of someone else. And that happens all the time, but he actually got to see it.
Yes.
And I
that's
just
so
think that's so cool. So there's nothing more joyful than knowing, and you said this earlier, if you're leading in worship and you see someone who's being impacted the way you have been impacted,
Right.
that gives you joy. That's the same thing. And so this idea of pouring into others, serving others, loving others, it is the key to a joyful life. And that was what that whole article that I was hitting on yesterday from Psychology Today. When we pursue just making ourselves happy, we're missing out. And so it really is in investing in others. And around here, the most obvious places to do that is on an impact team or in a B group where you're around people. Impact teams serve others. So just by the nature of what they are, you're serving. But in a B group, you're with people who invariably will face challenges during the course of the semester, and you'll have an opportunity to encourage them or walk with them through something. And by definition, it will give you joy.
That's why we should be desperate about it, not because we just want to make our impact teams bigger and like more people on it.
100%.
But we know that those moments are coming. Like for some, like those moments are coming for everybody. Like it's gonna happen.
Yes.
I think Rick Warren says that all the time, right?
Yep.
So like when those moments show up, man, I don't want them to be the solo tennis player that just doesn't have the joy because they can't even find it by themselves. So like that's the team thing, right? Like
it is the team
we're
thing.
all together in this.
Yeah. So the reason we want you to serve on an impact team is because it's better for you.
Correct. Yeah, it is. It's self-serving in some ways.
Right. Forget
true.
what you're going to do for someone else.
Right.
It's better for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true. And a bunch of our B groups are kicking off this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
And many of them are going to be using the podcast to kind of help their discussions through the week. So
Shout
if
out
that's
to
you,
Made for
good.
Wednesdays. That's
Yeah.
my B group.
right.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Yeah, so if that's you, we're excited you're here and hope that you love all things podcast.
Yeah.
But that's all we've got time for today. And until next time, we want to encourage you to share this out on your socials. Maybe you can be like this guy that Jamie just mentioned, and something that you share has an impact on someone that you weren't
Ben.
even
We know it's Ben.
thinking about. But we also want to encourage you to come back and be a part of the continued Joyride. It'll be happening on Sunday at 9 and 10:45. And of course, you can always watch on the YouTubes at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Thanks for being here, friends. Have a great week. Go and be love.